Yo, what is up guys, FaZe here and welcome back to another video. So in today's video we're going over the VZ55, a tier 10 tech tree heavy tank that you may have noticed has just came into the latest update, 10.0 to be exact. And if you haven't seen my live stream where I first got my first impressions on the tank, researched it and everything, there will be my live stream linked at the top right that you can go and watch. But in today's video I'm going to be going over what I think about this tank. Do I recommend you guys to go and grind it right away? And is it really a good tier 10 heavy tank? Now, there's a lot of negative things I'd like to say about this tank and a few positives. And I say that because this tank was something that I thought was going to be fantastic, but it's a tank that's pretty mediocre and there's a lot of better options. I will leave that right in the beginning of the video. However, let's get straight into the equipment that I run. Start it up. I run calibrated shells. Now, you may think 346 sounds very low, but because this has APCR, shell normalization really pushes that up to maybe 360. So you read 346, but it's actually about 360. And yeah, so I'm running calibrated shells just to push up that pen just a little bit. It needs gun rammer, but then you're not going to be able to pen much things, so I'd recommend calibrated shells. Now, enhanced gun layering drives, just because you want that aiming time to go a bit lower. Refined gun, and then enhanced armor, just because it has armor, so that 4% might and should increase your overall protection. And then those two at the bottom are pretty mediocre. Then I have engine accelerator. Obviously, you want to go a bit faster. Improved optics, it's not a tank destroyer, so you do not need camouflage nets. And then defense system. Consumables are basically the same as every other tank. There's no special consumable. So that's about it for the consumables, provisions, and equipment. Let's head straight into a game. Now, what do I personally think of the VZ55? Now, I have played a few games in it, and honestly, I have found it to be very mediocre and not a very fun tank to drive, mainly because it has absolutely no gun depression. Its turret armor can be easily butted through, especially when you have a Badger against you. Yeah, Badgers can just obliterate you in a hull down position, and the gun, while it does hit hard sometimes, its reload is so long that you feel like you're literally dragging your shells across. Now, as you can see, the tank has a very cool mechanic, which is vertical stabilization, your dispersion stabilization, which means that if you go under 15 kilometers per hour, your tank will always be aimed in. However, as soon as you go over that 15 kilometers threshold, then you are obviously going to be more inaccurate. And like you can see, that little bar is orange right now, but when I reverse, because this tank unfortunately only goes 13 kilometers, it does, however, mean that you'll always be aimed in. Now, I'm not sure what that IS-7 is doing. I don't want to verse that Badger. I really don't. He can just butter straight through me, as you can see, straight through my hatch, actually. And that is one thing that is very irritating about this tank, I must say, is that I don't understand why it has a hatch when it can be penned very easily through its cheeks. Wargaming should not have given it a hatch. They should have just let it start be the armor that it is, but without the hatch, because people, as you can see, can just butter straight through the hatch, and it just makes this heavy very unenjoyable to drive, basically. Now, I do have packet loss, which is very unfortunate. My E100 is just chilling here. Obviously, there's a grill in the back because, you know. And as you can see, that's 7 degrees of gun depression. I cannot get my gun down there. That is awful. This tank should have gun depression because its upper plate, while it is very strong, your lower plate is massive, has absolutely no armor. You can be penned directly through the turret. And the gun, while it can be accurate when you're going under 15 kilometers, as soon as you're not going under 15 kilometers, then you become incredibly inaccurate. Like I said, the alpha is very good, and as you can see, I did 497 to that Krong. Now, I'm going to probably get pinned directly through my tank, no problem, by that Krongwagen. There's nothing to really say about it, as, yeah, the Krongwagen is just a beast held down. However, he's not playing his tank properly, I would say. We do get a very nice bounce. I'm not sure where he bounced me. Maybe he shot the turret or the upper plate of the tank, and for that reason, of course, he's going to bounce, because it is armored there. But as you can see, the lower plate is so massive, the gun depression is awful, meaning that you end up showing the lower plate of this vehicle a lot more than you'd like. Unfortunately, we somehow bounce that IS-7 there. The enemy team's rushing us now. I'm going to just reverse because there's no point in me staying there. And as you can see, an IS-7 going side on is more armored than this vehicle is frontally. Now, that Object 777 has a lot more DPM than I do, and for that reason, I don't want to sit around and deal with him, because he can just obliterate me. Now, I'm hoping we do not have any tank destroyers. Lovely. So it just means that these guys are just going to be able to rush me without being punished for it. And because my reload is so incredibly slow, I'm going to probably die. And I did. And there's nothing much I could have probably done that game. That Badger that was on the ridgeline would have obliterated me in the first 5 seconds. His AP or premium pen is so good that it would just butter through this entire turret of the VZ no problem. And that is one thing I really hate about the VZ. Now, I put a lot of XP into this tank. I grinded about 600,000 free XP, which you've probably seen if you have watched my live stream. I put so much XP, and that takes quite a bit of grinding to gather up. Maybe about 2 months of non-stop playing to get that amount of XP. Obviously, XP boosters are very vacant nowadays, so you can get them pretty easily, but it is still quite a lot of XP that I dumped into this tank, expecting it to be something great. However, that is definitely not the case about this vehicle, and if you are thinking of getting it, I don't recommend it, as an IS-4 and an IS-7 is probably going to be a way better bet than the VZ55, unless Wargaming does one simple thing. Either get rid of its mechanic, which I think the mechanic's pretty cool. However, they need to do something about its gun. Either give it more gun depression, having at least 9 degrees of gun depression. I think this tank will be a lot more fun to play, and a lot better at ridgelines, because I cannot use this tank on a ridgeline against the Badger in like no way possible if I do not have that 9 degrees of gun depression, because my armor just falls apart. Most of the time I'm going to be showing the lower plate of the vehicle because I'm trying to use the 7 degrees of gun depression. It really just does not work. Or Wargaming can make it a bit more accurate. The accuracy is not the problem, in my opinion. It's either the reload. The reload is absolutely awful. Even with gun rammer, 10.8 seconds, basically 11 seconds is absolutely awful. If we go and have a look at the IS-7, which actually has pretty much the same alpha, if not a bit higher, with gun rammer, it's actually quicker than that of the VZ. It makes no sense. And the penetration on the IS-7 is awful, but it still has a faster reload. It makes no sense. Like, I don't know. The armor on the IS-7 is obviously way better in every single way. The lower plate is smaller. The upper plate on this vehicle can be extremely strong. The turret is basically impenetrable, and you get the VZ that can be penned directly through its turret, no problem. Its upper plate, while it's very strong, the lower plate is massively a weak spot because it can be penned, and obviously because of that gun depression, or the lack of gun depression, you end up showing the lower plate of your vehicle a lot more often than you'd like. And the one problem about it is that it can be penned through the turret and its hatch, no problem. I don't understand. Wargaming did a very bad job at bringing this tank and balancing it. It's, for a new heavy tank, it is absolutely awful. I would recommend a 60 TP, an IS-4 or an IS-7 over this vehicle any day. 60 TP is literally impenetrable when held down, but they decide to make the VZ55 the most buttery heavy tank that you can verse. It's very unfortunate, but let me know what you guys think of my quote on this video. If you have the VZ55 already, are you enjoying it? Do you find it to be an enjoyable heavy? And how are you performing in it? As this is probably one of the least performing vehicles or heavy tanks I have at tier 10, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, what can I do? I'm not a fan of it, but I'm obviously still going to play it since it is a new vehicle. Let me know what you guys think. Are you going to get it? And if you did find yourself enjoying the video, then you can always leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I greatly appreciate it. And I will check you guys later. Cheers.